Special thanks to our promotional partners at the American Philatelic Society.
The APS is the largest stamp collecting organization in the world, supporting collectors of any level worldwide.
For more information about membership and APS services, visit stamps.org.
I'm Charles Epting from H.R. Harmer in New York City.
And I'm Michael Cortese of Noble Spirit in Pittsfield, New Hampshire.
And this is Conversations with Philatelists. Michael,
yes,
you and I have taken a couple-week break. We've both been incredibly busy. I feel like the month of December, we barely even spoke to each other certain days. Versus our usual. I was going to say, usually we're constantly texting back and forth. This month has been busy. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on. We had an auction mid-month. You came down to the auction.
Yeah.
It's been quite hectic in good ways though. Nothing bad, fortunately. But we've missed a couple of weeks. But this is the end of our first full year of CWT.
First calendar year, yeah.
Exactly. We've been doing, from January on. We started mid 2020 or early 2020, I guess it was. And it's been a really fun year, and we've done some really cool and crazy things.
Incredible things that I didn't expect that we would ever do.
No, it's been a lot of fun. But so much of that was those doors were opened by this podcast. So we're recording this on December 31st.
Yep.
It is New Year's Eve. We've got the college football playoffs kicking off in like an hour and a half.
Really?
Yes. Are you watching?
I'm not. No, I'm at work.
Okay. I'm going to, I've been working from home, so I'm going to put the games on in the background. But we've got Cincinnati, Alabama coming up. This is not what we created this podcast to talk about. But I just thought we could sort of reflect on the past year, on Conversations with Philatelists, but on the hobby in general, and maybe on some personal stuff in general, because it's been a big year for you and I think, outside of Philately.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe we could just touch on, again, the hobby, and then our personal lives, and then the podcast and where we want things to go. We didn't hit that 1 million subscriber number, but maybe talk about, just missed it. Maybe we can talk about what we are looking forward to in 2022 as well. If that
we did like a wrap up Christmas episode last year. I think it's only appropriate.
We're much more casual this year.
I know. Yeah. The year itself became so formal and yet so casual at the same time. I feel like we really relaxed into kind of the positions that we're in right now.
I agree with that.
It became a lot more common for us to do this all the time, to talk to people. It become easier over time to talk to people. I sometimes listen to the kind of the first episodes we did, and we tried to stick to that format of I do a question, you do a question, I do a question, you do a question.
And now it's become like a real conversation. I think the word you're looking for is complacency.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've become
I want to make very clear that that's a joke, but Michael, when you so forget the podcast, forget Noble Spirit, forget you're like, I've already done that.
What are we doing here?
Forgetting our ourselves and our roles. What are your takeaways from Philately from 2021? What do you think the big picture is in terms of the hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything happened so quickly at the beginning of the year, but then so far apart as well. And then we just smushed a lot of information and a lot of changes into these last 4 months. So I feel like the kind of word on everybody's mouth the last 4 months have been this, I don't want to use the C word, crypto, but
you say coronavirus.
No.
It's the other
no. But kind of digital stamps. I mean, there more countries are issuing them, and you had what happened with the magenta is still people still buying shares.
Going on. That's an ongoing story.
Right, and then you had the USPS first issued their digital crypto stamp. It's just the
right.
When did they do that? Did they do that in October for the Dia de los Muertos?
Exactly. And I just saw they were doing a Christmas stamp as well. So obviously the first couple have been successful enough that they are
sold out within seconds. I feel like we talked about that before too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not the Christmas one, because that was more recent, but I assume that sold out as well.
Right. But I feel like we've just been kind of there's been this massive change in the last 4 months where people are now talking about digital philately and not just digital philately club meetings online, marketplaces online, but actually collecting stamps digitally. And it's been this whirlwind of, do people like it? Do people hate it? What do they? Is it going to last?
I think sort of spiraling off of that, the other big story the last couple of months, that's different but also kind of similar in that it sort of intersects with non-philately as well, has been this proliferation of fake postage stamps.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to toot our own horns, but I feel like we were kind of on the cutting edge of.
Yeah.
And the second we tried to go more in depth and research this more, all of a sudden it's like LA Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Vice, everyone is covering this story all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So it's something you and I still want to follow up on, but I feel like that was also it's sort of like crypto in a way, in that it's been bubbling under the surface. There have been counterfeit stamps, obviously, as long as there have been stamps.
Yeah.
And there have been high quality counterfeits coming out of China in particular over the last couple of years. This is something that Lens, for example, reports on.
Yeah.
Sort of like crypto stamps. I feel like there have been a lot of people maybe thinking about trying it. And then all of a sudden it was like the floodgates broke open.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like on everyone's lips. And I think that's another sort of major thread of 2021 has been the mainstream proliferation of counterfeit stamps.
Yeah. Yeah. The USPS has its own podcast called Mailin' It. And they had, I think, Bill Gicker on to talk about the USPS's initiative to try and combat these fake stamps, which I mean, it was a great listen, a great episode. I'm still kind of as confused as to what they're doing about it.
Well, and it's
before I listened to the episode, but
I was gonna, but it's one of these things where it's not like you read stories about counterfeit stamps in like the 20s or 30s, and it was like a guy. I don't know. I feel like he was always in Brooklyn or something, and he's got the lithographic plates or whatever, and he's actually like cranking these things out. Yeah. Whereas with drop shipping and the ease of setting up a website, especially an e-commerce website, it's like whack-a-mole. You get rid of one of these websites and there's like 10 more.
Yeah.
And they're not being produced in the United States.
Right.
So there's a lot of limitations. The feds used to be able to go knock on someone's door and bust them for making counterfeit stamps or bootleg liquor or something. But when the production is taking place outside of the country, that certainly complicates it as well.
You almost need like the UPU to become like the philatelic Interpol.
Right, you need a philatelic Interpol. That's exactly what I was trying to think of how to phrase it. You just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So those are sort of two. Crypto's not necessarily a negative story, but negative in a lot of people's mind. Yeah. And the counterfeit stamps are, invariably a negative story. What are some good things that came out of this year? Because I have a couple that I want to go over really quickly, but I want to hear your take first.
Good things that came out of this year. I mean, some absolute.
You shouldn't have to think that hard.
No, I mean, I was just trying to pick what I'd say the success of individual auction houses throughout the entire course of the pandemic. I mean, just absolute
sales have been up.
Yes,
and there's a couple of big highlights like the inverted Jenny block, of course.
Yeah.
And the magenta and the Mauritius ball cover, and then there's these obvious attention grabbing headlines that are sort of the cream of the crop. But I just think sales overall have been really good. You guys have been getting material faster than you can process it, and selling it for. I mean, I look at what you guys get for stuff. I even consign some stuff to you guys myself, and I just love say, hey, you got that for that stamp. Whereas a couple of years ago, I feel like the market just wouldn't have been as deep or as strong. So I think that the overall health of the market is certainly looking positive.
Yeah. Well, what about you? What were you gonna?
I was gonna mention shows.
Yeah.
Because last year, it was this year when I did my episode from St. Louis.
It's been a long year.
It has.
Was that February?
It was March, I think.
It was March.
I saw a meme, and I hate describing memes on the podcast.
Is it the Bernie one?
The Bernie Sanders one, where everyone remembers the picture of Bernie Sanders sitting in the chair.
With the mittens and the mask and the
exactly. And somebody said, this year's been so long, this picture was taken 11 months ago.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind.
It did. I thought that photo was 3 years old.
That picture went everywhere. That became a huge meme at the time. And I would have told you that was like 3 years ago, probably. I would have put that like firmly in 2018.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was February 2021. So yeah, I can't believe that St. Louis, which felt like a show during COVID.
Yeah.
That one was very much an anomaly. It was great to see everyone for the first time in a year, basically. I enjoyed it. I'm very happy I went, but it felt like a COVID stamp show.
Yeah.
Versus Westpac's and stamp show in
Chicago.
Thank you.
Felt like post-COVID shows. Yeah.
They felt like that. Felt like, you know what? Yes, we're going to take precautions. Yes, we're going to have certain rules in place to make sure that we're all safe. But they felt like shows again.
Yeah, and St. Louis I get what you're saying there. It kind of paved the way. It gave people an idea, and then there was just enough time in between it for people to feel comfortable. More vaccines had come out, and people were able to go to these shows and feel more at ease.
And look, the Bourse is going to feel like a Bourse, whether it's COVID or not. I guess whether people are wearing masks or sitting 6 feet apart or whatever. Yeah. But for me, it was the social opportunities that felt so normal. And I'm really happy that you and I got to hang out so much at these shows with Kaylee, with Corey working the cameras, and with my colleague Allison. It was fun for our little unit to be able to act. Yeah, you know, like it was a normal stamp show again, to go to the banquet and to, go grab dinner, go grab drinks afterwards. It was a lot of fun. And I think that was a big takeaway. Obviously, we're in a different situation now in winter than we were over the summer.
Right.
And we'll see where things continue to go. But, you know, at least it shows that the appetite for shows is there. The desire for shows is there. And it's, assuming we all abide by whatever restrictions are necessary, it's sort of, I'm not a huge fan of the movie Field of Dreams. Have you seen Field of Dreams?
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Well, I was gonna say, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
and I feel like if you have stamp shows, people will want to go.
Yeah.
So that was a big takeaway for me, is that we got at least a little taste of normalcy, to use.
And people are excited about them going forward. You've got the APS show in Sacramento. I've already got my paperwork for.
Super excited for Sacramento. Very underrated city, I feel. Loses a lot of attention to, obviously, LA and San Francisco, but Sacramento is very cool. I've spent some great time in like the little old town there, the historic district. I think Sacramento is awesome, and I'm looking forward to that show. Sort of in a holding pattern, London 2022 has said they're going forward, and I certainly hope they're going forward. But we'll see. Things are changing on a daily basis still here.
Pretty rapidly.
I know it seemed inconceivable to me in early 2020 that London 2020 would be canceled or postponed.
2022. Yeah, exactly.
But in 2020.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, in early 2020, I was like, no way is the London show going to be called off.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, there was no way the London show could have gone on. It was very rapid how things changed. And I feel kind of the same about 2022 now. I'd be shocked if it's canceled now, but ask me in a week and I may be singing a different tune. But hopefully 2022, you and I will have an opportunity to get back out on the road a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good positive takeaway is the shows, because that's what so much of the hobby relies on.
Absolutely. So let's jump back to the podcast now.
Okay.
We did some really cool things.
Yeah, we did.
First and foremost was the magenta, I would say. Getting to handle it, getting to share its airspace. I don't even really know how to describe it, because you just feel like you're in the presence of royalty.
Yeah.
When you're with that thing. And this was a day before the sale. We had no idea where it was going to go. We had no idea if it was going to be seen publicly again. Luckily, Gibbons has been generous with their displaying of the stamp, and they're making it available to the public.
Yeah.
But I think there was a bit of nervous energy around it as well. Could this thing be locked up or stuck under someone's pillow for another 30 or 40 years? We didn't know if we'd ever see it again.
Yeah.
And that sort of tension, I think, really heightened the experience. Again, whereas had we known it was going to go into the hands of a stamp store in London, I don't know, it just wouldn't have had the same palpable energy for me, if that makes sense.
No, it completely does. I'd love to know who the the underbidder was there, because it may have had that fate. If we spoke to Victoria, and it sounded like their decision to buy it, not it sounded like, she told us their decision to buy it was kind of a spur of the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, spur of the moment thing. So it could have possibly have gone to whoever the underbidder was, and we don't know what fate would have happened.
And we don't know. We know who bought the inverted Jenny block, but we have not seen it publicly since. So that's another case where, there's been a lot of speculation about where that might end up. But that's one that is, for the last 6, 7, 8, however many months it's been. 6 months, that's been out of sight.
Yeah.
So who knows when that'll turn up again. But that episode was really special to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a little bit of trouble remembering which episodes were this year and which episodes were last year.
It all blends together sometimes.
I was going to say it does. But a couple that I want to throw out. Karl Rove was a really fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he,
somebody
who he's exactly you picture Karl Rove. I picture him on the news on election night growing up. You'd always see him with his whiteboard. What states does Bush have to win? What states does Obama have to win? And I have this image of him as that guy, of just him as the Politico.
Yeah.
And for him to shed all of that so naturally and become Karl Rove, the stamp collector.
Yeah.
Who, if you didn't know about the other, he's just like you and me.
Yeah.
And he's got his albums out and he's showing us these patriotic covers, these campaign covers and things like that. I thought that was a really, really cool episode.
It could have been any other interview.
Yes.
We did.
That's what's great about it is it could have been any other interview, except it's this really prominent guy. But if you didn't have any of that like baggage, it's just a random collector.
Yeah.
And that's what was so cool to me. You hear about a lot of people who collect stamps. And I feel like there's a lot of people who may have dabbled in stamps at some point in their life. We had heard rumors that Andrew Garfield collected. Those were disproven. You hit me this morning with a rumor that Clint Eastwood collects.
Yeah, Eric Jackson told me that, yeah.
Right. I don't know how serious Clint Eastwood is. Maria Sharapova. I think there's a lot of people who at some point in their life may have collected stamps. Sure. Maybe had a childhood album. Like John Lennon.
Yeah.
There's the John Lennon stamp album. John Lennon was not a philatelist. He was a childhood stamp collector like many of us. But Karl Rove's a philatelist.
Yeah, Pat Simmons.
Pat Simmons, it was another really fun episode. To go from chief of staff for the president to guitar player for the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah. And then back to chief of staff for the president.
Back to chief of staff for the other President Bush, which I wanted to talk about in a second because that was a special episode as well. But I feel like, we had a couple of really good. I love the interviews we do with people that we've known for years, people who see shows, people who write articles or our dealers. Those are great. Those are always going to be the bread and butter of CWP. That's always going to be our, sort of our cornerstone.
Yeah.
But when we can branch out and find people who you wouldn't think of, like Pat, like Carl, like the Sununu family, which is what you just alluded to, those are the ones that are really fun and special to me, that show just how deep this hobby is. I think that I think there's a lot of unspoken collecting going on. So I think this panic over the hobby dying or there being less collectors is because a lot of people don't wear it on their sleeve necessarily.
Yeah.
There is sort of this great silent collecting populace. You sell to these people on eBay. I sell to these people at auction who don't go around, proudly announcing that they're a philatelist. Pat Simmons doesn't go talking about it, from the stage before they play Black Water or, streets or something.
Yeah.
But they are collectors in their own rights. And, that's been really fun for me. Do you want to talk about, you're the New Hampshireite. Do you want to talk about the Sununu episode really quick?
What it meant to me growing up, hearing all the commercials for Sununu. I mean, they're it's a legendary.
Every state has
family.
Every state has one of these families. I feel whether it's like the Cuomo family in New York or you've got the Sununus. Every state has this dynasty. The Bush family in Texas. So yeah, for you as Somebody who's lived your whole life essentially in New Hampshire. That must have been. It was cool for me as a Californian and New Yorker, but for you, that must have been really cool.
It was, because I mean, it was probably also the age that I grew up in, but I'd always just heard the name Shaheen and Sununu, and to hear that they were collectors, because I hadn't known initially, and then Joe Mullen at the Spelman Museum had told me a story about Sununu being the elder Sununu being a collector, and then I checked our customer history for eBay and found his email address.
Which I want to be totally clear is how I found Karl Rove as well. Was through our customer records.
No, of course, yeah. I mean, he.
So if you
don't
want to be on CWP, you shouldn't buy from Michael, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just had this thought that, well, he's a collector in New Hampshire, but probably he's bought from New Hampshire dealers. So I found his email address, and I just sent him an email, and he responded within a few hours. It was terrific. It was really exciting.
And the fact that we got to do that one in person and visit his home and see the collection in person, that was a really special one. And just like Karl Rove, another case where, regardless of what you think of their politics, the hobby transcends that. The hobby supersedes that. And these are gentlemen who can put that aside and just talk stamps. They can talk shop. And I think that's what's so great. And we're in this hyper opinionated world or whatever. And stamps are one of the last things where you can just sort of talk stamps without getting into all the other stuff going on in the world. And I think that's really cool that we can, enter their, so, and I think it must be great. I don't want to put words in Sununu's mouth or Rove's mouth or something, but it must be nice for them to sort of shut off for a few minutes as well. I mean, I can only imagine how many interview requests Karl Rove gets to talk about Biden and Trump and this and that. And I don't know. I like to think that maybe we are, a nice reprieve for these guys as well, to set aside, It's sort of like when we got to talk about baseball cards. That was another fun episode for me.
Yeah.
I got a Twitter message from Kent the other day wishing me a happy New Year. Yeah. And that was sort of fun that we got to enter the world of baseball cards. We could put stamps aside because that's our life. Yeah. So that's one of the great things about this hobby, I think, is no matter what background you have, we've all got this same thing in common. And I think that really supersedes a lot of other things that maybe drag us down on social media, especially at a time like this. Yeah.
No, it's definitely, there's been a lot of coming together and bonding and people connecting in ways that they hadn't before. We've talked to people who like Peter, like Rob, who started their blogs, and Rob admittedly started his before the pandemic, but have provided such insight information to people and connected with people in a way that would not have been possible if not for us disconnecting physically. And I think
it does go both ways.
Yeah, the fact that we had to disconnect in person to connect online and then get to go back to connect physically is only making it stronger, because we've had to remove ourselves from physical shows, from going to stores, everything like that, and then we located more people that have more interests, similar interests to us, and now when we go back, it's almost like we've got more people to talk to than we had before. We're coming back into the hobby stronger than we were coming out of it.
And I just want to assume that people don't listen to every episode. When you say Peter, you mean Stamped In on Twitter?
Yes, Pete Stamped In on Twitter. Yes,
exactly.
I'm sorry, I'm Twitter. Yeah, not Twitter.
and when you say Rob, that's Rob Fox of Postal History Sunday on his blog. So those are both great episodes. And no, I don't want to assume that people remember the episodes as well as we do. Can I, before we sort of wrap up here, can I mention one other episode?
Please mention as many as you want.
All right, I'm going to mention one other. It was maybe our most polarizing episode. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't yet.
What was the
polarizing episode?
Was when we had Ryan on from M&R Productions.
Oh, Really?
That was Legos. I had a couple of people tell me that it wasn't their favorite episode because there was so little stamp talk. But that was one of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying earlier, to sort of put stamps aside for a second and just enter the world of another collectible. Yeah. Also, there was a Wall Street Journal article, I want to say, yesterday.
Okay.
Did you not see this?
I didn't.
Okay, I might put a link in the description, or I might have Claire put a link.
I'm out of Wall Street Journal articles. I don't.
Oh no, you got like three, exactly. This is my third, and I was so excited. What they did is they highlighted 4 Lego collectors. Ryan was not one of them, but a couple of the others I follow on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And they talked about how certain Lego sets are appreciating at a faster rate than gold. So there's a Lego set that came out in 2010 that you could have bought for $250 off the shelf.
Okay.
Currently, mint in its box sells for $1,250. So it has increased 5-fold in price in 11 years.
Interesting.
Which is better than just about any other investment you could have made. Now, what Ryan mentioned is where you're going to keep the box of this thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a stock that you don't need physical space for. But there was this great Wall Street Journal article about the profits that can be made in Lego collecting and how this community is growing. And it just made me think, wow, I'm really glad we had Ryan on to talk about Lego collecting.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just feel like we're beating Wall Street Journal to the punch, is what I'm saying. I feel like we are on the cutting edge of journalism.
First Legos, and then the fake stamps, and then...
exactly. We're just, I don't know. I just feel like you and I are on our way to a Pulitzer. No, you should read the You know what?
I will.
Tomorrow's January. You'll have 3 new articles.
I will.
I'll send you the link. You can tell that neither of us we really want to not
support the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly. Or it's not just them. I don't subscribe to any papers, but but this is a great article about Lego collecting and about how it's a collectible that appeals to young people, all the people they interviewed in their 20s.
I think my favorite part of the Ryan episode didn't make it into the actual episode. So we started the episode and we were talking for a bit, and then we kind of got sidetracked, and he was like, wait, is all this in the episode? And then we redid the beginning after that. But one of the things you said, the reason that we had him on was because people didn't think young people collected items. And we covered that again in the beginning, but his reaction the first time was different. And that's what I loved so much. I tried to work with Claire to get his initial reaction to that statement in, because he was in the middle of a sip of water and he almost spit the water out while trying to say that's not even remotely factual, that young people collect things to a similar degree than older people. They're just collecting different things, and it just, his reaction the first time that he brought it up was what I loved
ownership.
So much. Yeah,
I agree with you completely. And that concept of tangible ownership will never dissipate or disappear. Yeah. As much as people love buying their Bored Ape NFTs. You know what I'm referring to?
Yeah,
monkeys that people are buying.
The gorillas,
The gorillas, exactly. But people are still going to want their physical stuff, whether it's Legos or Pokemon cards or stamps.
Yeah.
And that was just one last episode I wanted to touch on, because it wasn't a conversation with a philatelist, and yet it was one of my favorite conversations we had.
Yeah. Well, no, it'll be interesting because you saw the USPS issue these NFT crypto. Yeah, I think NFT is officially the correct terminology. I shouldn't be saying crypto all the time. Or I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. The NFT stamps. And
are they fungible or not, man?
They sold out within seconds. And I saw a lot of discussions online from people who bought them who aren't stamp collectors. They're just buying them because they're NFTs. And I remember
I don't mean to interrupt, but this company that the USPS partnered with, I forget the name of it, Vivi, has collectors of just they could release any NFT. So there's Vivi collectors who we sound like such ignorant fools.
No, I mean, this is what we're trying.
We're trying, exactly. And we're like the young ones. We're supposed to understand. And people have come to me and be like, Charles, can you explain NFTs to me? You're in your 20s. And I'm like, no.
Let me see
I
if
need
I
to
can
be
find
like
a Times
I need to be
article.
14 to understand this. I
Get
don't
someone
get
even
it.
younger.
Right. I've stopped learning. I feel like I finally hit that point where like, I don't know. Like when I was coming up with computers, like I don't know. I feel like I was progressing alongside them, and now they've just gone miles beyond where I'm at. I see the virtual reality headsets at Best Buy, and I just feel like I'm a Luddite or something. So, but there are anyways. Before I want you to finish what you're saying, but there's collectors of this company who are not buying them because they are stamps. They're buying them because they are released by Vivi, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. So there were people in the comment section arguing about, what the importance of NFTs in general. And I think it'll be interesting as time goes on. They've just issued these Christmas NFTs alongside Christmas stamps. Will any of these people buying and collecting the NFTs then switch over into collecting the physical stamps, which is kind of the conversation that we had with Andre from Stamp Stack, where he said they were creating this in hopes that people would buy. It would drag some people into physical stamp collecting also. That, again, yet to be seen.
The other big question mark that I've been fascinated by, just if I own a $5 Colombian, I can go on eBay, I can work through someone like yourself or myself, I can go to a dealer and sell that stamp for money.
Yeah.
But my understanding of these NFT stamps is that you can sell them for money, but you cannot actually convert that to cash.
I think you can. So it's what's strange is
certain platforms
haven't adapted the ability for you to convert that into cash yet. So all you can do with the money you get, you can put money in, and then you can buy something, and then you can sell it, but you can't take money out. All you can do with that money is buy more things.
Right.
And then sell those things for more money. You're essentially trading up until you have this massive amount of money that you can't do anything with. Yeah. You buy a Monopoly board with real money and you get fake money. It's the exact same thing. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
We know exactly where you stand on NFTs now.
They're working in the ability to be able to convert that money into actual money. It means something to people, and that's all that this is. That's all that anything is. It's just very caring.
That's
about things.
This is the deepest CWP has ever gotten. Personally, this year, one of my main takeaways is that we both bought houses.
Was that this year? You bought a house this year?
Right.
What month was that in?
I bought it in April.
It's been a long year.
It's been a long year. I want to highlight. I've mentioned this on the show before. I want to highlight it again. You and Kaylee drove your trailer down to help me move. Not to help me move, to move with me. It wasn't help. It was so above and beyond help. What you guys did, and then you a couple of months later bought a home of your own, and I somewhat contributed, but I was there in spirit. I didn't have a trailer to bring.
I'm just gonna and I'm gonna interject. You did wake up at 3:00 in the morning, drive 4 hours to get to our house for 7, help us move, and then drive 4 hours back at 6:00 at night to get home for 10. So. Right.
But to be fair, waking up at 3 is only an hour and a half before my normal wake-up time.
I will never understand, but okay.
No, but that was again personally. I want to thank you again for that, and just highlight how we were friends before the podcast. But I don't know. I feel like this podcast has just strengthened those and led to so many fun real world experiences, like seeing the magenta, and also like brutal real world experiences like loading up my 1936 desk.
The desk was so heavy.
The desk was
in the elevator. That was so. I thought the elevator was going to drop.
So that was personally, and then lastly, what do you want out of 2022 professionally, podcast wise, personally? What are you looking forward to?
It's going to be hard to top this past year.
Yes.
With the magenta, the inverted Jenny block.
I feel like one of us
Carl Rove, the Sununus.
Right. We need to be appointed postmaster general or something.
Yeah, with both of us buying houses. You got engaged.
I did. That too, yes. It's been a big momentous year.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to top this. I don't even want to try and guess what's coming next year, but hopefully more of the same. Maybe you'll get, maybe you and Olivia will renew your engagement so you can get engaged again.
Or we could just get married. I don't know. That's another
that
logical step.
Buy
Maybe
a
we
second
buy
house.
second homes.
Yeah.
Right? Like vacation homes? I don't know. I don't know how to top it.
I think I got to put wallpaper on the first one first.
Right. What other chiefs of staff, presidential chiefs of staff, are still living that we can get on the show?
I don't know. Are you going to Google that?
Okay, real quick.
Yeah. Just their name and then stamp collector question.
Well, I don't even know if they need to be a stamp collector. White House chiefs of staff. List of chiefs of staff. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them.
At least one. You know what? Statistically, at least one of them, the remaining ones, has to be a stamp collector.
That's true. We'll get one of them.
Mm-hmm. Janet Yellen is allegedly a collector.
I feel like she might be a bit busy these days.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I've heard there's some stuff going on in the world that may require her attention.
Yeah.
But
that's
eventually,
never stopped us before.
That's true. We should. She's someone who would be fun to have on too, for a whole other perspective. If she is, again, there's all these rumors. If we could have Janet Yellen and Clint Eastwood on, it'd be fantastic. We're really shooting for the moon here.
Yeah.
But who knows?
No, it's been, I think, at least, honestly speaking, at least just the success of shows and the success, people coming back and feeling comfortable back in the hobby that they know and love so much, doing the things that they know and love with these added other infinite number of things that they already had to pick up through the pandemic.
There's been a lot of talk. Oh, it's giving people time to revisit old collections. It's giving people time to write and put together exhibits. And that's all great. We agree wholeheartedly that that's awesome. But I think you're right. We do also need to work on continuing to get back to not just what's new, but also what people have loved for so long about this hobby. Making sure people are comfortable, making sure people are able to meet up face to face again. I do hope that things continue trending in that direction in the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say? Is that your pick also? But
I think shows is a big one. Again, and so many of the things when we did our wrap up episode last year, we couldn't have known that the magenta was going to sell. We couldn't have known these certain things were going to happen. So I'm just kind of ready. I've enjoyed doing this podcast so much, and I've enjoyed this hobby so much for the 6.5 years. No. 5.5 years.
Okay.
That I've been involved professionally, going on 6 years. I've enjoyed that so much that I'm really kind of content just sitting back and waiting to see what's in store.
Yeah.
Because I feel like these opportunities just kind of present themselves. Even the magenta, we didn't know we were going to be doing that until 2 days before or something.
Yeah, I remember you had contacted them and they said, yeah, we'll get back in touch with you. And then we heard nothing for 3 months. And then
the sale was coming up and you were very stressed.
I was panicking.
You were panicking. You're panicking. And I had this Zen attitude towards it. I said, Michael, don't worry. And you were worried. I'm not going to lie.
I was like, maybe you should call them again. Maybe they forgot about you.
And it all came together last minute. Yeah. And that's really kind of the approach I'm taking for 2022. Not professionally work. I'm going to keep grinding and fighting for every consignment and every sale. But in terms of, my own personal enjoyment of the hobby, I think it's great to just sit back and see what's in store. There's bound to be some surprises.
Yeah. No, definitely. Got surprised plenty this year. Let's see what happens next year.
Absolutely. So, Michael, Happy New Year.
Yeah, you as well.
Hope you have fun celebrating tonight.
Thanks.
I'm gonna be working on this consignment of private coils.
That looks nice.
That's a fun New Year's plan, right?
Is that a Shermack coil? That first one, I couldn't really.
It is. Farwell coil.
Okay.
So these have the different numbers. So that's a 4 or 5. So there's 4 holes at the top,
Okay.
5 at the bottom, and then there's also.
It was far away, so I thought that was all. I thought those were big holes.
They do look like the.
Yeah.
I was in an antique store the other day. I saw a Shermack machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was so tempted to get it.
You didn't?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yet being the operative word there. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But then these are so this is a 5 and a 4.
Yeah.
You see the whole, or 4 and a 5, and then this is you can see 3 and a 4.
Yeah. Nice.
So these are all accompanied by PF certificates. Great collection of privately privately perfed coils that I'll be working on tonight. But that was a unnecessary tangent. Michael, I was going to wish you a happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you too.
You and Kelly have a good time, and we'll talk in 2022.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, and thank you everybody so much for listening.
Thank you for listening this entire year.
Yeah, that too.
We really appreciate it, and we'll be back at you in the new year.
Absolutely. See you then.
All right. See you, Michael.